U.S. will lose face before world if it abandons Kyiv, says ex-Ukraine president.
Here's a summary of the article.
Ukraine's former president Leonid Kuchma has warned that the U.S. will lose face before the entire world if it abandons Kyiv, and said mistakes by the West contributed to Vladimir Putin's all-out invasion last year. Kuchma, a Russian speaker from Ukraine's industrial southeast and the ex-director of a Soviet rocket factory, was president of Ukraine between 1994 and 2005. Last week Kuchma said he turned on the TV at 3 a.m. and watched Republicans in the U.S. Senate vote down a $61 billion package of assistance for Ukraine. We have to hope Biden can get the legislation through. The U.S. has lost Afghanistan. Defeat for Ukraine means the U.S. loses face before the entire world, Kuchma said. Last month Kuchma, 85, published an updated edition of Ukraine is Not Russia, a book he wrote in 2003. Asked why Ukraine resisted Russia last year, to the Kremlin's surprise, Kuchma answered, because Russians are not Ukrainians. They have a different mentality. He said the Russian way of thinking derived from the Mongols, who ruled early Moscow. Ukraine is lucky to have Zelensky. In my analysis he is a sincere person. He was invited to leave Ukraine but stayed, Kuchma noted.
This post received a score of 18,000, with an upvote ratio of 87%. Here are the top comments in response to this article.
Abandoning Kyiv will give validation for China to retake Taiwan and hold all of the islands in the South China Sea. If war is to start for Taiwan, they know they can hold out until the US eventually abandons Taiwan.
It also risks Russia trying to fuck with the Baltic states in a few years when they have recovered from the war. US abandoning Kyiv now would lead to an extremely dangerous situation for the world.
That's just called WWIII, and we won't have Ukrainians fighting it for us. Mostly I've sort of grown fond of Ukrainians, and the absolute human tragedy of letting Russians take their land and do horrific things to the people their army tramples over is really too much to bear.
It shouldn't even be a discussion about material cost anymore like many politicians try to make it. It's about protecting a fundamental right of a sovereign nation. It's about justice for the victims of Russian aggression. It's about not allowing a nuclear power to conquer non-nuclear powers and get away with it. ANBD set a precedent.
It's also about honoring our international commitments. When Ukraine gave up its nuclear weapons, we put this in the Budapest Memorandum. We promised to help them should they be attacked or threatened with nuclear attack, both of which Russia has done. If we don't do this, no one will ever think of denuclearizing, and everyone who can will rush to get them to hold off aggressive neighbors. If we don't assist, it's the end of nuclear non-proliferation, and that is a shit sandwich for the world we don't have to eat. But probably will, because Republicans
greater than reaffirm their commitment to seek immediate United Nations Security Council action to provide assistance to Ukraine. This commitment was upheld. UN Security Council action was sought and Russia vetoed, because duh. We should continue aiding Ukraine because they're suffering brutal treatment at the hands of an authoritarian neighbor. The Budapest Memorandum doesn't really come into it.
So, maybe people can argue that we technically met all of our commitments by the letter if not the spirit of the agreement, but think what that means bigger picture for all the other assurances we make, and deals we do with other nations. Abandoning Ukraine here and calling our efforts good enough will absolutely kill our already strained credibility.
Russia also agreed not to invade, so there's that.
Also, any nuclear power that wants to invade a country will now know that America will get bored after less than 2 years and stop helping. That's pretty valuable information when planning these things.
This video was automatically created by Reddit to speech. The article and comments in this video were selected from Reddit according to their upvotes, and any paraphrasing was performed by smmry.com, without any human intervention.